Welcome. My name is Count Frightculous, and I will be your guide into the chilling, spooky scariness of the world, and maybe even perhaps the universe. But now we are journeying down the road of the books of scary stories from long ago. These scary stories hidden away in boxes, in the shadows, in the basements, in the attics, the clutter that people kept. But now these books have been rediscovered by many, and you might find them in the antique shop or in a garage sale, and you can find them for pennies on the dollar. But what lies within these pages are scary stories from long ago, and I would advise you, I would compel you to go ahead and purchase them, read them, have some fun. These can be very scary stories, maybe to frighten you, and maybe you'll just think that they're fun and ridiculous. Uh-oh, wait a minute there. Hang on just a second, we have a little more. Okay, enough with the smoke here. You're going to set off all the alarms everywhere with this thing here. So anyway, where were we? Okay, the scary stories. But I have to tell you, we're going to not read through these stories one by one here on this video. What I'm going to do with you to help me, we're going to review these stories. So maybe you can leave a comment whenever you have an opinion. Hopefully it's not too much of a wise guy opinion. Keep those to yourself, okay? But either way, there goes one now, and another, and another. I just let the bull out of the cage, didn't I not? So anyway, here we go. What we're going to do, we're going to review these scary stories. And then at the end, we're going to have an official rating on if the book is actually scary or not. It's probably, it can be very subjective, scariness can be, but we can have some objective approach. And I think in this case, to do that, we have the demon baby, because I can think of really nothing else that would have more credibility or an experience to rate a book on scariness than the demon baby. Who is that? Who could that be knocking at the door at such hours of all hours? Let's find out. It's none other than the Grim Picker, and he has brought us the book of scary stories for us to review now. But just remember, and let me warn you, do not deny the choice of the Grim Picker. Once the decision is made, it must not be undone. And you're very frightened by it. I say, whoa, the Grim Picker seems very scary. Why is he choosing the books for us? Well, that is what he does. He is the Grim Picker. He chooses. He makes decisions swiftly and with confidence. And that's not a bad thing to have around. Let me present this scenario to you. You're out with your friends or your family, and you're having a very nice day. But inevitably, everyone will start to hunger. And then they say, where are we going to eat? What are we going to eat? Burgers. Let's have a Chinese buffet. Someone will always ask for a spicy Indian food. But with the Grim Picker, you don't have to worry about this. Because again, he will choose swiftly and with confidence. And he has chosen Long John Silver's. And I have to say, as a young person, I really enjoyed those chicken planks and the little crispy bits in the bottom of the food container, the crunchy pieces. You were always hoping to get a bunch of those. They were very good. And don't forget the hush puppies. But I digress. Let's get back to the book of scary stories for us to review. Let's take a closer look at the cover, shall we? So the title of this book is Ripley's Believe It or Not. I think that's the series maybe, because we know there was a TV show long ago, and there's a museum you can go to. It has like a wax museum, right, I think. Ripley's Believe It or Not. If you're not familiar, the concept is they tell you these very grandiose, almost unbelievable stories, and then at the end they say, believe it or not. Because in some senses, these stories are supposed to be true, or at least they were told to be true, or there were some elements of it that were truth. And so that's why they always said, believe it or not. Do you really think that was real or not? So that is really what this book is. So I'm assuming maybe the stories in this book were maybe part of Ripley's Believe It or Not in some form or fashion. So here we have on the very front title though, I have to say, if I saw this, now I'm a little conflicted by the imagery on the cover of this book, but the words make up for that. They draw me in. Right there you have true demons and monsters. True demons and monsters. Not just demon and monsters. They added true demons and monsters. So now you're thinking, oh, is this a true story? It must be true. I don't know. And then down here we have 3 words, but one of those words really just caps it all together. And that is weird, eerie, and then authentic. They chose the word authentic to put on here. To me, I think, oh wow, an authentic, true story of demons and monsters. I'm already scared, to be honest, just by the words on the cover. It sends a little shivers in me, and I get a little frightened. Ooh, what is it gonna be in there that's true and authentic that I'm going to find out? And then down here at the bottom, it says, servants of the Dark Master. Well, we know who the Dark Master is. He's always scary. But then it's the werewolves of Poligny. Werewolves, too. There's so much about this. But then, like I said, I need to get back to the imagery on the cover, though. Down here in this corner, bottom right corner, as you see, there's a man there fighting off these beasts with a sword. Now that is spooky, because the look on his face, he's very frightened. He's fighting for his life, you can tell. But then above that, looking down, here we have, I believe this is supposed to be a werewolf, but I'm curious why the artist decided to depict this particular werewolf with the receding hairline. Does it not look like the werewolf has a receding hairline? And not only that, it's like a comb over receding. It's like he combed, there's like some hair on the top that's been combed. So it's a comb-overed werewolf. I'm not sure, that doesn't make me very scared. I look at that and I think, that's a balding werewolf with a comb over. He looks like he should be, you know, on a cruise ship playing shuffleboard with, white shoes and carrying some kind of drink with an umbrella. So, but anyway, and it almost looks sort of like a lion. Does that not look more like a cat creature with the comb over? So I'm very curious. So that right there, if I cover this up, if we cover that up, and then we look at, oh, it's very scary. But then, no, it's a bald werewolf. So let's not judge a book by the cover. Let's go ahead and review and see what's inside. Because again, the words are drawing me in. The true demons and monsters, the weird and the eerie, the authenticity, the authenticity, if I can say it. Well, I'm very scared. And then the werewolves of Poligny. I need to know who the werewolves. I'm actually pretty curious to know who the bald werewolf is. Even though I'm not scared of it, I want to know why the werewolf has a comb over. So let's find out. So I just want to remind you though, at the end of the video, we will do an official rating. So you want to make sure you stay to the end for nothing else than to see the comb over werewolf. Oh, what was that? I thought I was here alone. Maybe that's the bald werewolf's brother coming to beat me up because I'm making fun of him. I don't know. Anyway, Demon Baby will rate the scary stories. And you say, how will we know how scary it is? By spinning her head around. One head spin being the least scary, 5 head spins being the most scary of the scary. I think if her head is spinning 5 times, All of our heads will be spinning at that point because it will be so scary and creepy. You probably won't even see 5 head spins. You will have already fainted on the floor from the frightening scariness. So make sure you stay to the end to get the official rating from Demon Baby. Go ahead and subscribe too if you want. You can like the video. But let's go ahead and get into the story. Let's go. Scariness begin now. Ooh, let's see if I can do this. Watch this. Ooh, watch this. Ooh, let the scariness begin now. Oh, here we go. Into the scary stories. Yes. And now we are ready to review this book of scary stories. Believe it or not. Actually, that is the title of the book. Ripley's Believe It or Not. True demons and monsters. Weird, eerie, authentic. That is the key word. I still think that is the key word on this cover. Authentic. Even though I doubt a werewolf with the comb over is authentic. Although I wouldn't put it past it, right? I mean, it is a form of it is a human that's turned into a wolf. It's a werewolf, and you know, humans do have the baldness gene, so why would the werewolf not inherit that baldness gene too, right? But it's the fact that the werewolf is trying to comb it over, like just shave it all off, or you know, put the wig on or something, please. All right, so we get into the first story. I believe there are 4 stories in this book as well. And so here we go. Make sure you stay to the end though, to get the official rating by Demon Baby. The first story is titled, The Demon in the Glass Cage. Right away, that is a pretty spooky title, right? Wow, a demon in a glass cage. What in the world is that going to be about? Let's find out. But what it is actually, what I can tell you is, there's an old man, and he passes away, but he has a lot of money, and he wills all his money and his estate to a university. But there are some stipulations in his will that they must follow out in order to get the money from his estate. And they do it because of their greed for the university. They do these things. But what are these things they wanted him to do? Let's find out now. As we see here on the first page, the skeleton, it looks like they're in a laboratory, and it says even as we start, one macabre day in 1832, as a gruesome project comes to an end in London's University College. Gentlemen, the dissection is complete. This is the skeleton of Jeremy Bentham, founder of our university. Bentham left his fortune to the college, provided they dissected his body in the interest of science. So number 1, he wanted to be dissected after he died. But Bentham's will has even more eerie provisions. What could they be? What other crazy thing? They've already dissected him. What else could they do? I, the will, ordered Bentham's bones to be put back in his clothes. Oh my goodness, we're on the first page and everything is chaos and crazy and spooky and scary all at once. He wanted to be dissected, then he wanted his bones to be put back into his own clothes. Right here, the old blighter was that. It's enough to give you the horrors. Indeed it does. Indeed it does. But though Bentham's skull was covered with a wax head, can you believe it? They covered his original skull with a wax head with his resemblance. So he himself was the real skeleton inside his own wax figure, apparently. Look, those eyes, they look alive. It makes my skin crawl. Yet there was a final wish in his will. This most grotesque of all. There is no mistake, gentlemen. Our benefactor directed that his remains must be present at all college board meetings. How ghastly. If only we didn't need the money so badly. You see, their need, their greed, their desire for wealth allowed them to follow out this crazy old man's will of dissecting him taking his bones, putting him back into the original clothes, then putting a wax head around his skull, and then allowing this corpse, this wax corpse, to be at every of the board meetings. It's crazy. Can you sit there with a creepy old body? So what they did, they encased it in a glass case, right? It says, between board meetings, the odd effigy is on display in the library. They say, I can't study in here. I tell you, I can feel those eyes drilling through the back of my head. They use a lot of good language in this story. This story is only one page in, and there's so much going on, and you're so creeped out already. You know, every time you see this body now, you know it's actually of a real skeleton in his original clothes with a wax head around the skull. It's crazy. So it goes on for a long time. A long time this goes on. But then in 1955, the college board revolted and said, I've had enough of this taxidermist nightmare. I move we take that old bag of bones and park it into the storeroom. Here, I second the motion. And they do. They take this thing away. They say, okay, no more will it be in the college, the university board meetings. We're getting rid of it. We're gonna put it down in the basement. And they remove it. And right there, but as the case is removed, that cadaver, I could swear it turned to glare at me. It's just your imagination. The porters must have jostled the head loose. And then soon in the storeroom, I'll be glad to see this beastly monstrosity hidden out of sight. A pity the old blighter's head came off when we moved it. But don't worry, my lad, you'll be safe up on this shelf. Besides, old Bentham's appearance doesn't matter. We won't be seeing much of him anyway. Haha, look at the face. The artist did a great job of rendering a crazy-looking, ghastly face. Can you imagine that's what he looked like, sitting in that chair as he's, they're in the board meetings, like this, and they're trying to talk about finances and scholarly things, being all intelligent with their college degrees. And here you have an insane, dead body staring at them. That's humorous. That's frightculous, but it's very humorous. But what happens next? They have a bunch of terror going on. Things are broken apart, and books are knocked off, and things are broken, and doors are crashed through, and there's a lot of destruction on the campus. And they blame it on Jeremy Bentham, because they say he's a demon, he's come back to life, and everyone keeps claiming that they see him whenever this destruction takes place. But they go to check it out in the storeroom. There's his body sitting in the case, fine and dandy as if nothing ever happened. Right there, see, fearfully they investigate. See, I told you, there's the effigy sealed in the case. And here's the head still in the box. A headless, lifeless skeleton couldn't possibly have opened that closet door. But yet the destruction still carried on over and over. And people tend to think that it's the demon, the dead body in the basement, the one that is going around campus and destroying things. That's the end of the story. I'll read the last panel for you though, just because. For the past decade, there have been no reports of wanton destruction at University College, but students and faculty wait in dread for the day that the vengeful demon, Jeremy Bentham, walks again. And there it is. Believe it or not. So, what did you think? Was that a scary story? I would say that's a bit frightening story. It sends a little bit shivers in you, and wow, to think that they dissected and then put the original bones back in the clothes, that's a bit scary. That's a little scary, I have to say. So, the cover, at first I was thinking this is going to be kind of a ridiculous comic because of the comb-over werewolf. But actually, that story was very interesting, and it could actually be true. Is it? What parts of it are and what parts aren't? Check it out. So the next one is just very simply titled, The Vampire. And so it takes place, it's a man who comes back from the war. His name is Arnold Paul, and he looks very distraught, and his friends say, you look very tired. What happened? Looks like you've aged 10 years. And he tells them a story about how he was bitten by a vampire, and he followed it back, and he found the grave of the vampire. And here though, he shot it with a silver bullet, though. That's the thing. I thought the silver bullet killed the werewolf, and the vampire was killed by the stake through the heart, you know? But here it says, you see right here, he says, the next night I returned, my pistol loaded with a silver bullet. Spawn of hell, return to the dark world you came from. Bam! And so he says, since that day my body has been wasting away. My only hope of recovery is to eat the earth from this box. That's another thing I didn't know about the vampire. Because then look at the next panel. My grandmother told me of the cure for this illness. He's eating earth from the vampire's grave. So apparently you can stay alive by eating the earth from the vampire's grave that bit you. That is strange. I was not aware of that. The silver bullet, I'm questioning. I don't think the silver bullet is what you kill the vampire. Arnold Paul has been marked by fate. That night in the crossroads, he was killed. So Arnold Paul, even though he was afflicted with the curse of this vampire, trying to stay alive, he did end up dying in a terrible accident. But then all of a sudden, people started to die in the town, mysteriously. No real effects of death other than some marks on the throat, right? Right here it says, not a sign of illness, not a mark in his body, except for those two strange punctures at the base of his throat. He's trying to, what could it be? Two pokes in the throat. Oh, maybe it's a vampire. Anyway, these men, they say, you know what, let's follow him. And they do. And the footprints lead straight to the graveyard where the trail ends here at the grave of Arnold Paul. Isn't he the one who said he had been bitten by a vampire? I don't like this. Pry open that slab. And the tomb is open. Yes, it had been months, but Arnold Paul lay there. And there we go. We must destroy the evil beast before he wipes out the village. They say an oaken stake through the heart. No, there's a simpler way. It's said that vampires cannot endure the light of day. Here's this guy, he's whittling a stick. Hey, let's just stab it in the heart. This guy, no, look, man. That's too much trouble. Just wait for the sun to come up and he'll disintegrate. And sure enough, he did. And that was it. And here we go. Arnold Paul left his hometown a soldier and returned a vampire. Boy, that most people, they go to war and, you know, if they do survive, they usually come home with a medal or they at least get, you know, some praise or something at home. They're very happy, they start a family. No, Arnold Paul, he returns a vampire. His old friends refused to believe his wild story and thought him mad. But the final evidence brought home the incredible, terrible truth. And that's the end of that one. Now the vampire, I do have a quick vampire story if I can share with you. A new fancy restaurant had just opened. You know, it was a very kind of spooky restaurant, but it was very fancy indeed. But it was kind of one of those scary ones that don't have the prices on the menu. And well, this vampire shows up and decides he wants to dine at a very nice restaurant because he knows the clientele in there will be very, very astute. And he's looking for a high grade, you know, for his next, I guess, bite maybe. Indeed. But he decides, you know what, I will try the food first before I ravage this restaurant, right? And so the waiter kind of gets this eerie feeling about him as he approaches the vampire at the table. And he's kind of a little bit nervous and he says, hello, sir, may I take your order? And the vampire looks at him very calmly and says, yes, I have decided. I want the best cut of steak you have. And the waiter says, very good choice, sir. May I know how you would like it prepared? And the vampire looks at him very calmly again. And he waits a moment, that eerie moment of silence, to build a little suspense, right? And he says, tell the chef he may prepare the steak any way he like, as long as it's not through the heart. Anyway, those are the jokes. All right, let's move on to the next story. Okay, are we ready for that story? Okay, come on. Here we go. There's a little joke humor, vampire humor. Okay, the next story. Let's go. The next one is very quickly. We'll run through this one very fast. It's called The Devil's Steed. Now I will say so far, all of the titles in this book have been pretty creepy, right? They've been pretty creepy. I mean, the vampire, that's pretty straightforward, but a vampire is a very scary idea. It's a very scary word. But this one is called The Devil's Steed. And this one is about a horse, a black stallion horse that they say has glowing red eyes. And it's a giant of a beast. And it destroys and wreaks havoc on the encampments, and nobody can kill it. They try to shoot it with arrows and guns, and no one can capture it. But yet it taunts them, it follows them, and then it taunts them. It's just, they know that it's just waiting there, and it's going to attack them again and destroy. But he was freeing all these horses, and so it's a lot of destruction going on. And to me, this type of a story is more of like maybe a fable that is told throughout the years, you know, because back then they didn't have TV shows and movies and phone devices with, you know, TikTok and the YouTube and all of those snappy chats that you can do now. So they had to tell their own stories. And to me, I think this was a story where they told a story. Maybe there was a horse that was very crazy and they couldn't tame it. And so it broke free and ran away. And maybe they would see it every once in a while. And so they made up a yarn about it. I mean, for a fable, a yarn. And so they said, you know, maybe they made it like, hey, it was this black stallion, and it got bigger, you know, because as you tell a story from person to person, it can grow, and the exaggeration gets bigger and bigger. And so that's what I think this story really was about. It's about the horse that just grew into this great big tail, but it ended up becoming this demon horse that was smashing railroads and wagons, and nobody could kill it, and it just heaped destruction. And so a lot of they say, where did this stallion first come from? Well, there was many different stories about a black stallion like this that had red eyes and was like a devil steed, they say, right? A devil horse. There was even other stories, you know, from even further back than that of a black stallion horse that would rampage through the villages, you know. Even back in England they had one. And this one horse would run around, and there was always a storm that would follow this horse and destroy things. And see, that's where the clue came in, right? Because they used the horse to kind of explain the storms, because tornadoes or just big gust of winds or these natural disasters, that they didn't have the technology or the science to really be able to explain them. So they could use things like a devil's steed. It was the thing that was bringing the storms, right? And that's what they talked about here, was that this horse was bringing the storms, you know? And each time his path of destruction leads straight towards the sea. There he goes, headed for the ocean. But why? But always the maddened beast turned aside at the last possible moment. Beast of hell, that he is. He's planning to bring yet more evil. See, they thought he was bringing the storms, that the horse was bringing the destruction. And that's really all. I'm not going to read much into that one. Except for at the very end. Does the devil's steed still live? There are some who believe that Satan's steed still survives in some dark infernal region, waiting the call of his master. Believe it or not, I don't believe it, okay? I already told you why. I think it was more of just an exaggeration of the horse, you know? And I like animals, so we don't want to think of animals as evil anyway, right? I mean, the horse, it never really died, but they just used it as a way to explain things that they couldn't explain, the natural disasters or the destruction that would happen. Or maybe it was just for the entertainment purposes, to cause fear in people and just give them something to think about, right? Because again, they didn't have all of the technology. You don't have the movies and the TVs. They had to come up with their own stories. And now, we are here for the last story. And it is called The Werewolves of Poligny. Yes, we are finally going to get to the bottom of this comb-over werewolf. The year 1521, my goodness, it's a long time ago. In the fog, shrouded Jura mountains of France, a traveler meets with a sudden savage attack. A wolf, he seemed to come out of nowhere. My only weapon is this sword. And he fought off this beast. But then he travels along, and he sees a hut, and when he goes into the hut, he sees a man who has the same wound that he just had wounded this beast with just before. He accuses him of being a werewolf. And he brings him into town and they go to court. But this guy calls out his friend and says, well, there's other people that are werewolves here too, not just me. He's a little tattletale, right? But then the one man explains the story about how he became the werewolf. He made a pact again with the Dark One. We will assume this is the devil, Beelzebub, Satan himself. And he makes this pact and he has to serve him. And the devil makes them become werewolves. And they go to the town killing people. And the townspeople say, okay, we have to get rid of you. And that's that. And that's the story. It's very simple. We don't really hear about the werewolf with the comb over, but let's go back a little bit. I want to give you a few panels. These are interesting panels here. Like this one. It is true, I am a werewolf, but there were others too. Pierre Bourgault among them. See, he's calling his friends out. What a tattletailer here. Not only are you a werewolf, you're tattletaling on the other werewolves. I thought they were part of a pack. You're in a pack, right? The werewolf pack. You're obviously not upholding the rules of the pack. You never squeal on one another as a werewolf. But here is Pierre Bourgault. He tells the story. Alas, it is only too true. For me, it all began years ago when a terrible storm swept through these mountains. The wind had torn down my fence and my sheep, all gone. They'll die in the storm. I'll be ruined. I'd give my soul if I could find the flock. See, that was his first mistake. You never use your soul as a bargaining chip, ever, ever, never, ever. It's always a bad sign. I've never seen anything turn out good when somebody bargained with their soul, okay? It never works out. They never learn. But this is 1521, so they were still learning the idea here, I guess. Suddenly, out of the howling storm rode a dark horseman. You offer your soul, eh? Bourgault, I'll find your sheep if you will serve me as your lord and master. Again, I think he still had a chance to turn away. He could have said, you know what, the whole lord and master servant, and I got to give you my soul for eternity. I think I'll find the sheep myself, right? Without my sheep, my family would starve. Very well, I agree. Good, I will lead you to them. Look how easy they find the sheep. They're right there. It's like, dude, you could have taken like 5 minutes and looked around. You immediately, I will give my soul for my sheep. It's like, hey, dude, why don't you just go walk around for a few minutes? You know, you never know. You could get lucky. Instead, now you're the servant of the devil. His hand, black, beast-like, and cold as ice. The evil one himself. I am lost. Yes, you are. You have lost. And you knew it. You couldn't walk around for 5 minutes to find your sheep, and now you are doomed to the devil for life. And then later they come and they say, hey, come with us. All right, it's time to go, you know, and here he goes. He goes with them, and he's like, here, my skin was crawling, but fear made me obey. Soon, in the ghastly candlelight. That's it, Pierre, do like the others. Strip off your clothes. Then rub the magic saw over your body. The magic saw, what will it do? In the next horrible moment, I'm changing my face, my body. I'm becoming some kind of a beast. I'm turning into a wolf, a werewolf. Aha, you see, now this is kind of interesting. Now to me, the devil seems like he might be a little bit kinky here. Go, take off all your clothes and rub this salve all over you, right? I mean, that's a little freaky. I didn't know that you could become the werewolf by rubbing salve on you. I'm almost thinking the devil was doing that just for his own, you know, sinister, kinky kicks, right? In actuality, he can just, his black magic just changed him into a werewolf. He doesn't need them to rub a salve, you know? You know what I'm talking about here. That's a bit creepy. That's what's scary about this story. It's very creepy. And they turn into the wolf, and then they attack, they do his bidding, and then, right here, and after every hunt, Verdun used another ointment to turn us back to human form. You have served the Dark Master well tonight, brothers. Remember to return for the next Sabbath. And that's how they went. And he says here, yes, I am a werewolf, a servant of the evil one. Slay me and the others, lest we destroy you all. And they were burned at the stake. That is very, very nasty way to die, burning alive. I can't imagine. That's very scary and creepy. But legend says that the werewolf pack of Poligny was not exterminated. As late as 1598, 4 members of the Gandilan family were executed for being werewolves. To this very day, peasants of the Jura Mountains believe that werewolves range the remote valleys in the service of the Dark Master. Believe it or not. I'm just very curious here. Here's where I think the comb-over may have come into play. Look at this panel here, if I may, okay? This one there, when he's changing into the werewolf. Look here, look at the hair. Look how the hair is, it's almost, he's not bald, but it's just the way that the artist drew it out, the way the hair is growing down over him. It sort of has a balding look there, right? And then the hair is all coming down like this, and then this is all flat on the top. You know, he almost looks like a bear, cat-looking creature there. But anyway, so when we go back here, look, see? The cover, this shot, the cover. So I think when the artist was painting the cover, decided to use that story, for some reason he tried to paint it the way this was drawn, but it came out looking like a receding hairline. And this totally looks like comb over. He's combing over what is left of the hair on his head. And the highlight, that's what if that was a ball, the highlight would be right there. So it's a bald spot. It's the werewolf with the comb over. So anyway, what can we learn from this book of scary stories? Well, we should not judge the book by the cover, because to me, the stories in here were quite frightening and informative. The silver bullet to kill a vampire, I think that may be wrong, but the dirt, eating the dirt, to stay alive, and then the ointment to become a werewolf, a lot of interesting things in here that I was not aware of. So, believe it or not. But on that note, believe it or not, it's time for the demon baby to give her official rating of this book of scary stories. Let's see if she is awake and aware and ready. And now we're at the end, and it's time to get an official rating for these scary stories by the demon baby. Yes, is she there? Let's see if she becomes aware and can give us the rating. We're waiting for you now, demon baby. Patiently, go ahead. There she is. She's twitching a little bit. Oh, okay, now she's aware. Okay, demon baby, what is the rating you want to give this book of scary stories? The comb-over werewolf of Poligny. There is one head spin, right away, one head spin. 2 head spins, very quickly with the head spins, 2 head spins. Okay, she's thinking about it. Oh, there we go, it's 3 head spins. She gave it 3 head spins. See, I told you, don't ever judge a book by the cover. Oh, wait a minute though, she's still got, maybe it couldn't be more, this is crazy. Okay, here we go. Oh, no, she came back half a head spin. Oh, you know what? I bet that half a head spin is because of the cover. The comb-over werewolf on the cover. I bet that's how it lost a half of a head spin. Of a head spin. So we have 2.5 head spins total for this book. I think it's well worth it because the stories inside, much made up for the cover on the front. Again, it's just that bald spot, and it is. And I know you probably want to argue with me, maybe say, oh, it's just the hair, the lighting. No, look, I've got it right here. I have to bring this back up. I'm mesmerized by the balding werewolf here. That almost looks like a cat creature. But anyway, on the top, if that was the hair reflecting on the head, we can't really see, maybe we can show it better. The head, if that was the head, there's a very highlight there, right on the top. You take a ball and shine a light on it, and the highlight will be in one little spot. It's not gonna be across the whole thing. This is a spot, like a ball, like a bald head. So anyway, I know I keep picking on the cover, but I have to say the stories inside are very scary. I like the vampire one and the first one, the crazy guy. I mean, dissected and then put back in. Anyway, we went through all that. The stories inside, much made up for the balding half-cat werewolf creature thing, the comb-over werewolf, I call it, the comb-over werewolf. Anyway, that should be another scary story. There should be a scary story. The comb-over werewolf of haircuts. Oh, the comb-over werewolf of the barber shop. There you go. All right, so with that, make sure you go out and find some of these books on your own. They're everywhere. There's hundreds, thousands of them still littered across the lands, you know. Like I said, they may be hidden in books or hidden in old dingy stores, bookstores, or maybe somebody has them in boxes and they're on the yard, their yard sale. But you can find these. And I say the more tattered and torn, the creepier and scarier the stories will be for you. And so go out and enjoy these, what we will say, cheap form of scary entertainment. Because you never know when you're going to find a very scary story that really hits home for you and says, I really enjoyed that story. And it may have only cost you a few coins out of the pocket. Or maybe you can even get it for free. How lovely is that? Well, I suppose there's a lot online these days, and you can go on the internet. But to me, having the actual book there, the smell of the pages, the crinkling of the pages, that adds to the scariness of the story. Just looking at it online is okay, but having it right there in the physical form, you know, you could put a candle there, you know, instead of the LED screen, you could have a candle, a real candle, and you could look at it and really get the sense of the scariness of it, yes. With that, I'm going to bid you farewell. Maybe you would like to subscribe. I hope you enjoyed these scary stories. We will do some more again very soon. And we will keep doing these for a while. We may have other scary things to talk about too, who knows? Because I did say the world and the universe. And with that, I bid you farewell. I am Count Frightculous, and I wish you a chilling, spooky, yet peaceful scariness. Yeah! What was that? Why did I go, yeah? I needed like a big scream. We're gonna edit that. Let's edit that. Go back and do it again, but instead of me going, yeah, let's put a big scare, like a big scream. Okay. And with that, I bid you farewell. I am Count Frightculous, and I wish you a chilling, spooky, yet peaceful scariness.